Welcome back to Secondhand Sellers, where we talk about all things thrift, resale, and secondhand. I'm Sarah.
I'm Clayton.
Thanks for joining us again this week. We are back after a 1-week hiatus, back to the game.
Yes.
So this week we're going to talk about, basically it's just an overview. We're doing a March 2024 overview. We did one other video like this and we've tried to streamline it this round. So we're just going to talk a little bit about how we did, our sales, some stats, that kind of thing. We won't get too deep in the details and bog down, but would you like to start us off today?
So my March numbers are looking okay. I actually didn't list a whole lot in March. I was in the middle of moving, which is why we're a little short on episodes.
His life has been very busy.
So my March report is I did $1,258 for total sales. Of that, my selling cost was $387, and my net sales not including my cost of goods, was $793, which overall I'm pretty happy with, especially being as I was moving. I think I listed items for like maybe 1 week in March. Yeah. After that, I was packing stuff, both my eBay inventory and my own personal stuff, and actually moving and house repairs. I just didn't really get to actually working on eBay.
So you built your store up enough to where you have like residual sales anyway.
Yes,
Do you know how many things you've listed?
Currently, it's 200 something.
Okay, I think once you get into that multiple hundreds, your sales take a dip, but they still manage to sell a few things.
I would even put my store in vacation mode. Like the week that I moved, I put my store in vacation mode because I didn't want to worry about it, didn't want to think about it. I still had like a dozen sales.
It's pretty good.
And that's
with people knowing that you weren't there.
Yeah, I had one customer, they asked, because they were like, hey, when are you shipping my item? I'm like, I was on vacation mode when you bought it. I thought it was clear with that, but you know, it's just I was pleased that I was even getting sales, even when people knew I was not able to get their items out right away. So I'm pretty happy with that. How about you?
We actually had similar numbers. We did 1,221 or so in total sales, and I wanted to talk about a little bit about this too. When we're talking about eBay total sales, they include things like state sales taxes. So when we say these numbers, think about that. I think it's a little hinky how they do their stats on eBay, including how they do their fee assessments. A little hinky. So that's including our state sales tax.
They will show that you earned a certain percentage, and that includes all the taxes. But then before that money even hits your account, they already take the taxes out. So why equate that in there?
Yeah, I don't understand why that's under total sales, because sales tax never, and not every state has sales tax either. That was never our money to begin with. But just so you know, disclaimer, that 1,221 or so includes Michigan state sales tax, which is currently at 6%. So my selling costs, similar to yours, about $400. And that was includes shipping and promoted listings, I believe, are included in that too. And then my net sales came out at $747, really similar to yours. And actually, for keeled overstock, I think March was our highest month. Now, we just hit the year mark this month, like a week or two ago, for our business. We've only been doing the online selling thing seriously for about a year, and our eBay sales, this isn't our highest month on eBay, technically. Last July, I think we had sold a couple of video games for my husband, and that bumped our sales up above this number. But because we were on Etsy, we sold a it was a pretty high ticket item. It went for $250 plus shipping. Or maybe shipping was free shipping. But either way, it was over a $200 sale, and that we made $200 on that. I think we profited like $180 on that sale. So with the Etsy sales included, which we sold that one expensive item in March, I believe, and then maybe a smaller item too. I'm not sure. March came out to be our highest month for the business, I believe.
So you've been redabbling into Etsy a little bit?
Yeah, we started listing a little bit more on there. We are still not super consistent, but we are slowly building up the portfolio, and we have made a few sales on there.
Nice.
Including that really high one, and that one sold fast too. It was the Great Faces. I don't know if I might have talked about that on here.
I believe
I'll try
you
to
talked
throw a
about
picture
it.
and so you guys can see it.
It's
it
a
sold really fast.
very unique item.
Yeah, it's made by Fitz and Floyd, and apparently they're pretty hot. And we happened to find a whole set of them. It was like, not the entire line, but it was 5 or 6 pieces, I think. And we paid $20 for that, and it sold for over $200. So that was a really good thing. So March was a good month for us. We were a little more consistent with our listing, I think. Well, actually, we had a good couple weeks in April, and we've just been a little more consistent. And then we've fallen off a little bit, so we've seen a little dip in our sales here in April. So I don't expect it to be the same, but that's our own fault. And then out of those things, I don't think you touched on this, but the $747 in net sales, not counting our cost of goods, that was 28 items for me.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I had 43 items in total. So, and yet again, we've talked about it before. You are very picky on what you'd choose.
I try to be more picky, yeah. Especially these last couple of months.
And I am more shotgun. Whatever it is, I will sell it.
Yeah. And I do sell some stuff that are not in our niche, especially on eBay. Now, Etsy, way more curated. And you can, I think we have the sites that like a links to our sites. I don't know, we need to get yours in there too, I think. But to our eBay.
I thought it was on there. But
if it's not, we need to check and make sure it's not. Or make sure it is. But you can check them out. Our eBay does look a little more eclectic, shall we say, than our Etsy does. But one thing I am being more picky about is how much profit I think we can make on that, and I try to keep the margin a little higher these past handful of months because of space and that kind of thing.
Time.
And I'm interested in more impact for less work.
Right.
And so it also was a little bit of an experiment, and it seems like it started to work out. Like it was a little slower at first, and then it took off. So our average per item on that was $43.62.
Nice.
Yep.
My average was $29.26.
So yeah, that works out with the little bit more that you sold there.
Yeah.
So
and I did have a couple more higher end items, like around that $100 mark. I had a couple of those sell that kind of pull those items up in comparison to my usual,
which is all like lower
like
volume.
That $30-$40 range on down to the $10 range is my average. So probably wouldn't be that normally, but
hey, I love
I'll take it.
Sales. Yeah, those are great. Okay, so we've talked before that we do promoted listings, and so this section is kind of interesting data, I think, because some people I think are on the fence about promoted listings. They sort of something in their gut, they don't want to give eBay more money, which I understand. I do understand that. But my numbers say the promoted listings work.
Same. And I don't know about you, I try to do 2%.
Yeah, mostly.
On everything.
I mostly do 2%.
I will, for certain items that have been sitting in my store for ages, but I know I'm on the right price point. I have dabbled with, instead of dropping the price, increasing my promotion, but I won't do it by much. I think I put 5%.
Yeah, I've done that before as well. I never go with eBay suggestion, which is always way too high.
No, because by that point, right, you're being hosed.
But so to prove that they do get results, at even 2 to 5%, that low end range, 43.6% of my March sales on eBay came from promoted listings.
Yeah. My promoted listings make up 68% of my total sales.
Wow, so even more.
Yeah.
So even more.
So, and my organic sales is still a decent chunk of change. But I would rather give eBay a few more of my dollars to make sure that my items are getting sold. So, and that lies the rub. Do you want to give up those few more dollars and you're actually making more money? Or do you want to hold on to those couple more dollars? Because 1% out of $100 item, you're giving up an extra buck. That's up for you to decide.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and for me, I've said it before, I'm interested in selling things and rotating our stock.
Yeah.
So if we have stock that sits here forever, we don't have money for ourselves and we don't have money for the business to buy more stuff.
Yeah.
So I am okay with the promoted listings. I've talked about it before. Eventually, I would love to go mostly independent with our selling website, but for now, I'm interested in getting things sold. And almost half of my listings came from promotions. So I did have 56% that were organic, which that's pretty high. That is pretty high. So I must have had a few things that were pretty desirable this last month, but still 43%. I might not have sold those things this month had I not chalked up the money for the promotions.
So of those promoted listings, let's break it down a little bit more.
The best offers. This is referring to, for those of you who do eBay, you already know this. Those of you who don't do eBay but are curious, you can send offers so people can watch your item, and then you get notified, oh, hey, you have watchers, and you can send them an offer to try to, like, basically throw them a bone to see if they'll bite, and they can send you offers. So it goes both ways for us, just about every month. We send some offers, they send some offers. That's how it goes.
So whenever you list an item, how quickly are you to jump on hitting that send offer button when you get a new watcher?
It depends.
Yeah.
I think sometimes I've talked about this before. I think Hannah's a little more conservative on some of the stuff than I am, because I'm like, I want to sell it. But I think if it's something that's a higher value item, or maybe even not a super high value item, but it gets watchers right away, sometimes we might let that ride for a few days. If it's something that's been listed for a long time and hasn't garnered any attention, and then boom, it gets a watcher, I'm on that. And so it does depend a lot on how long it's been listed, how quickly it got watchers, versus, like, as opposed to things that are sitting forever.
Yeah.
So but overall, even the newer listing stuff, I do tend to send a couple bucks off here, $5 off there.
I really like the $2 off, because I'll send offers as long as my item is $20 to $10, or more like $40 to $10. I will send $2 to $3 off. I mean, even if it's something I listed,
like immediately?
I listed it, and that evening, oh, I already got a watcher, I'll send $2 off, because I would rather go ahead and package up that item, get it out in the mail that day, than go put it in my inventory, and then, oh, hey, it's sold for the $2 off the next day. I'd rather just go ahead and send them an offer and be like, hey, maybe they want to buy it. Generally, it doesn't work, but every once in a while, I've had things, oh, cool, I sent an offer and it sold, and I can just take it right back out of the bin I put it in a box, slap a label on it.
Some people really just a couple bucks off, they're like, oh, yeah. I think there might be a scarcity mindset going on there too, like, oh gosh, it might not come again.
Right.
So, talking about this, how many of your things sold by, it's called best offer, on the data sheet, it's called best offer sales. So this would be a potential buyer sending us an offer.
Give me one moment, because my numbers got all skewed. So, the offers that I sent made up about 30%, 29% of my total sales.
So that's the seller initiated offers?
Oh no, that's best offers from buyers.
Okay, so that's how much?
29%.
So 29% of his sales came from people throwing him an offer. 36.9% of my March sales came from people sending offers to me. Now, what's not clear to me on this breakdown is whether or not best offer includes counter offers.
I don't know.
So I don't know if I sent them an offer and they countered it, which category it would go under.
Right.
That's unclear to me. So if any of you know, please let me know. Maybe I just didn't read something there, but there are situations where I send an offer and somebody counters, and I'll accept the counter, but my best offer sales are 36.9%, so about almost 40%. Like, that's a pretty high, like over a third of my sales came from people sending me offers. And Hannah and I sent offers, and 22% of the people that we sent offers to bought our item off our offer.
I have similar statistics where the customer sent me an offer, 29%, where I sent an offer is about 17%.
Okay.
So it's kind of reflecting the same, where if they send an offer, that number is generally higher versus whenever I send an offer. And I do send, like, I refresh my eBay store several times throughout the day and go, oh, I have a new watcher. Send an offer.
I do too, especially after I've sent the initial one.
Yeah.
So any subsequent, I'm throwing offers trying to get it gone.
Yeah.
So that means that 41% of my sales in March, though, came from no offers, which means 41% of people that bought from our store paid full price.
I had 54%.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Which means I'm either putting my stuff at the target price point. I did have a few auctions, which I know you didn't list any auctions.
Nope, none.
But I was already pricing my auctions at a price point I would be satisfied with. So everything that I got from those were a little bit extra gravy.
Sorry. How many things did you sell on auction? Or what percentage?
I can look at that. I can't remember. I had... it was not much. I had $32 from auction sales.
So I had maybe a few things.
Maybe a few things, and that's the profit point after eBay fees and all that. So.
So you only did it on very select items.
Yeah, I think I only listed like 12 items. Auction, but I already knew, like, I only had a couple dollars into each item, and I already knew, well, if I made $6 on each item.
They were auction-friendly items.
Yeah, auction-friendly. And a few of them sold for my asking price. A few of them sold higher than what I listed them. So I was already knowing what I was going to get.
You were just trying to offload stuff.
Yeah. So I don't know if that would change organically with the sales without offers. But for the most part, I do list buy it now.
Yeah, and we've talked about this before. We have another podcast where we talk about our preferences, buy it now versus auctions, and we mostly do buy it now, both of us. But
it's generally the better way to make money. I have had a few situations where it's like, ooh, that sold really quickly. I had one item I just recently sold. I listed it, and it sold in under 12 hours, and I went, maybe I should have priced it a little higher, or maybe I should have auctioned it. But you know what? I'm satisfied. I made a good profit with the item, so I'm not going to worry too much about it.
I mean, it could be that you just found the buyer.
Right.
Which does happen. Like, sometimes, like I said, the faces one, maybe I should have listed it higher than $250, or maybe I just found the right buyer immediately, and we got lucky.
Yeah. And generally, you can't worry about those situations and go, oh, I'm losing out on all this profit, when really you're just going, okay, I'm going to make an informed decision next time I list something.
Yeah, and that's why we always talk about sourcing things cheaply, typically. There's so many things out there in the world that you can get for not a lot of money, without cheating anybody, without being unfair, and those items give you a lot more wiggle room. You can feel comfortable sending offers, and you can feel comfortable receiving offers, or you can auction it off when it sits around too long.
Yeah. So
always be very mindful when you're sourcing, because that gives you that freedom to be happy with a profit margin and also get rid of the item. There have been a few things that we've bought that we spent more on, and you can feel the constriction of how much you spent, and you're like, I can't go much lower than this because I do not want to have to pay to send this or whatever. So
And we even talked about that in an episode about losing money by selling items.
we've come close. I think the one item that I was the closest to like almost not making anything was like a 15-cent profit or something. Like it was insanely
very minuscule
low.
like that.
I don't recommend doing that very often. But anyway, one more thing before we wrap it up. Let's talk about our top categories. What were your top 5 categories, and what percentage of your sales were they?
My top 5: video games and consoles.
That's often in your top
5. Specifically, I bought a lot of Pokemon games off of Facebook. I turned around, I relisted them that night. I think I had them all sold by the next day.
Wow.
So
that's awesome.
I made profit with them, but my main point of interest was I was putting one of the games into my pocket. So that 700 something I earned for March is really actually probably closer to more like 400 something, because I did have to spend a little bit to get those games, but I was able to keep one of the games I bought
basically for free.
Exactly. So
what percentage of that was that? Again, being
40%.
Wow.
That accounts for 40% of my sales. After that, toys and hobbies, specifically action figures.
Wow.
I made, which accounts for 12%.
What action figure did you sell? Do you remember?
I sold a big Power Ranger. I know that.
Oh, that must be that then.
Well, that was $45, and I had $150 worth of.
So you had 2 more in that category.
Well, I had a few more.
Interesting.
Because, let me look through a little bit. Oh, okay. I see what they're going to be putting a few other things in that category that I wouldn't necessarily consider. For example, I sold a KFC plush.
I'm not sure I consider that an action figure.
So they're probably putting it in that category. But after that, toys and hobbies again, but collectible cards, because I sold a lot of Magic, which 10%. Then craft material, I sold some yarn, and I sold Prismacolor pencils.
You really do sell everything.
Everything.
Literally everything.
Shotgun. And then lastly was collectibles, which is another 7%.
Do you know what category of collectibles that was?
Sculptures and figurines, which I think...
Was it those wall plaques?
I was about to say,
we talked about
probably
them
the wall
before.
plaques, because I only sold... Let me look at that again. It says... Yeah, it was that wall plaque, because I made $92.
And that was what percent?
7% of my sales.
Out of one item.
But that was one item, so...
Not bad.
No, can't complain. What about you? How did you do?
So my categories were way more spread out, I think, than yours were. So I have a long list of categories, but my top 5, number 1 was books and magazines at 15.91%, so almost 16% of my sales in March were from books and magazines. Consumer electronics, which I believe was a DVD VHS player that I sold for about 10%. Or which ended up being about 10% of my total sales in March, which that is not our typical keeled over stock, vintage antique kind of category. But again, on eBay, I'm not super strict with our collectible thing, but we still do have a lot of collectibles.
And they make good profit.
They do. I think we paid $5 for it, or $6 for it, and it sold for not that. Let's put it that way. I mean, it was high enough to be 10% of my March sales, so that's pretty good. And I think that was the only thing in that category. Crafts comes in at 3 at 7.4%, and that was, I believe, it was sewing patterns. I believe it was lots of Barbie clothes sewing patterns. So I'd gone to an estate sale, and I bought a whole box of like 80s, 90s, some 70s, some like Barbie costumes, a whole bunch of Barbie or Barbie doll like clothing patterns, basically.
You're like 8 months too shy from the big
big
wave.
I know, but we made decent money on them.
That's
I think
good.
I paid. Did I pay $10 for the box of Barbies? I can't remember because I bought a lot of stuff, so I can't remember if I bought it in a lot for $10 or if I paid $10 for the box itself. But either way, we made plenty of profit on that. And that, I mean, lots of sewing patterns came in at, like I said, 7.4%. That's a pretty decent amount. And I can't remember how many lots we sold. I think a couple, 2 or 3. And then 4 is collectibles. And it actually is a lidded stein. It was what it got down to. So it was under like Breweriana. But what it really was a stein, but it had a dragon on the top of it. So it was more like a fantasy themed stein than it would be. It wasn't like it was like a beer collectible or anything. It was more for the fantasy crowd. It had like a pewter dragon on the top.
Oh, that's cool. Yep. I was just about to ask if it was a pewter.
Yeah, I'll throw a picture up in here about what that was, but that was about 7.26%, and I know that was only one thing that we sold there. And then the last one was collectibles, boxes, jars, and tins at 6%. So
which falls into your regular pickup anyway.
I can't remember off the top. I think it was some sort of like probably vintage jar or something.
Cool.
Yep. So that's my top categories, which really is not a super high percentage overall. It's a little over a third, less than half, I think, of doing in my head math, but I'm pretty sure it's less than half of my total profit was in these 5 categories. So I had a whole list of categories that we are not going to cover. But anyway, that's our overview. So we made similar profits. I think what you can maybe take from this too, like as a wrap up, is we have different approaches and made very similar money. So you said shotgun approach, you sell a little of everything. Your price point on average is a little bit lower. My price point's a little higher. I'm a little more particular. You can get to similar spots different ways.
Yep.
And you need to find what suits you.
Yeah, just find out what suits you. Figure out what you enjoy selling, what you don't enjoy selling. For example, I have a lot of clothing right now I have to list or go through. I figured out over the course of the past year, I really don't like selling clothing. I'm still going to use what inventory I have. I don't think I'm going to source anymore. Just because I don't enjoy having to clean it, having to rub it down, get all the dog hair off of it or whatnot. And they're easy to ship, easy to store, but just a little more than I want to deal with. I'd rather deal with something else that's easier to clean, easier to manage. So.
Yep. Don't think you have to sell it just because it could make you a little bit of money. It's not. I mean, obviously, if you need to make a bill this month, a different situation. But if you're just in the process of building a business like we are, sometimes just leave it. Just leave it.
You're gonna thank yourself when you go, wow, I'm really glad I didn't worry about that.
Like I said, many roads to the same location. Thank you again for joining us this week. We're going to try to make our monthly recap a regular thing, so we will be coming at you pretty soon, probably with April's, because we're getting this out kind of late in the month. So hopefully we'll be back to our regular weekly podcast schedule from here on in.
Hopefully.
Please remember to like and subscribe. We would love your comments. We do try to respond to those. And check us out on social media. I have an Instagram, and you can actually look at our stores if you're interested to see how we do things. And I think you have a TikTok on it?
Yeah, I think so, but I haven't done anything with it in a while.
We're not great on the social media, but we are good on our stores, so do check those out.
We're working on our stores and trying to work on our eBay. So by liking and subscribing, it helps us a lot.
It does help us. Thank you, and we will see you next week with another episode of Secondhand Sellers.
Happy thrifting.
Bye.